The thing that I've been obsessed with the most the past 2 weeks has been braking forces and sprinting. And Stu's talked about it on the Huberman podcast.
Yep.
He's talked about it in the Rich Roll podcast. There's a couple coaches that are just talking about how they're training their athletes physically for the demands of sprinting.
Yep.
You said something to me in text, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Faster runners have larger braking forces.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Hey, yeah. Danny, do you want to chime in, or I'm happy to keep running?
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to provide to this. Like, this is all classic information. I'm sitting back here just learning right now. Y'all keep rolling with this.
I got 2 pages of notes.
Yeah. Well, there is some unpublished data, I'll put it that way, that I have access to, where we had faster and slower runners, and the faster runners had larger braking forces than the slower runners, which was an unexpected finding, to be sure. At least at that time, it was unexpected findings. There's been, I think, some conflicting data that's in print. One study, at least I know of, that has shown that faster runners do agreed with that, like had faster braking forces. There's one, I think, from Steph Collier and Ryu's lab that showed maybe something that was a little bit more equivocal, like that the way they managed braking forces or had lower braking forces during certain part of the ground contact phase. But here's the big picture thing that I think is true from a physics standpoint. The result, unless I don't know if this is the detail you want me to go into, but I'll provide it anyways.
Do it. We're diving in now.
Warm up is over. This is in the weeds. This is really in the weeds.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a resultant vector in the sagittal plane that has both vertical and horizontal components to it. That resultant vector has to basically somewhat closely align with the center of mass for reasons of dynamic stability. So for athletes that have larger vertical forces during the first part of ground contact, and we know they do, that's an established fact, larger braking forces is not an unreasonable occurrence, given that that vector has to basically align with their center of mass. If there is larger verticals without corresponding larger horizontals, that could conceivably not align with the center of mass. That resultant vector would conceivably not align with the center of mass, which could be a dynamic stability challenge. So there's that part of it from a pure kinetics standpoint and kind of balance standpoint. And then there's this other piece, which I'm not sure how well I explained this, but the faster the athlete, actually the larger the ground speed difference they might have. Actually, the larger the difference between how fast they're moving forward versus how fast their foot is coming backwards, how fast what that ground speed difference might be, that may kinematically contribute to larger braking forces as well. In other words, there's both kind of these kinetic reasons and also these kinematic reasons that may contribute to faster athletes potentially having larger braking forces than their slower counterparts. I should add a real big caveat here. I'm not saying that you should train or coach an athlete to actively pursue larger braking forces. That would not be advisable from just a purely technique standpoint. We'll get into the assisted sprinting piece and all that stuff. And you might also see...
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Just want to make sure I record them. Okay, we're still good. Sorry about that. We'll edit that. I said our recording stopped for a second. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just start kind of from the top of that last phrase. So you might actually find like a developmental athlete who like really overstrides and heel strikes and lands way out in front of them. They are also going to have really, large braking forces, not in a good way. As Les had messaged me at one point during our text conversation, high vertical forces with corresponding high braking forces, probably not a bad thing and probably unavoidable. Low vertical forces and high braking forces, that's problematic. So there are some nuances to this for sure. But I think, constantly saying, hey, you don't want any braking force is not probably accurate from a mechanical or possible from a mechanical standpoint. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then just thinking about it, like in terms of like practicality, like the faster you go, the foot tends to get a little bit further touchdown distance, like away from acceleration. Acceleration you might have under the center of mass, and as you gain speed, that touchdown distance gets a little bit greater. So like the break is inevitable. It's kind of like saying like if I were to do a depth jump, but I'm trying to reduce the braking, it's like you can't, like you're not going to reduce the braking, and the speed of the drop is going to determine the brake that you need to apply. And which makes me think about also is like, if I think about the ground contact and I split it in half, in that first half for ground contact, I'm trying to move through that phase as fast as possible, efficiently as possible to get to the second half and earn the right to the second half. So like it's unavoidable. And the harder you hit down, the bigger the braking force that will occur. Is that correct?
Yeah, great points. And it's a great way to put it, right? So we're talking about bigger braking forces, but again, impulses is force times time. Bigger braking impulses are not necessarily beneficial. You want to get through that braking phase as fast as you can, as you said, to get to the propulsive phase. 100%. You got, as I know we'll talk about, you got to manage those braking forces during the first half of contact to get to propulsive. And, you know, I think it's one other point that's worth going into. During top speed, it is not possible to land directly under your center of mass. It's unavoidable, as Les just said. During acceleration, it is. There's kind of this common misconception that, hey, you can land right underneath your hips at top speed. It's not true. It may not be like a bad coaching cue to say, hey, land underneath yourself. Like that's not bad, but just for like clear cut mechanical terminology, the runner is going to land out in front of themselves a little bit, 20 to 30 centimeters, something like that. So there's going to be a braking force. How fast can you get through that and get to the propulsive side of things? Probably, good to consider.